Well, Ryan, our viewership is probably wondering why they're seeing us on a Saturday morning. And I guess we should just get that out of the way now. Both of us have a little bit of travel over the next couple of weeks, so we thought
That's
we'd
right.
get one in
That's right. Well,
now.
also the Canadians won a couple of games, so I want to do this in a good mood before they turns
You
over
want to
again.
you want to get me while I'm still on the couch.
Oh,
So
Jesus.
we're just for our fans base, the 20, 25s, 30 people that are listening. We're doing one tonight, so you're getting this Saturday. The Leafs haven't played on Saturday night yet when you've listened to this on Saturday morning. And then we'll do another one before the Olympic break once we're both back from our travel. So
Yep.
so tonight we got a few things to talk about this week though. We got to
We got a
talk
lot
about
to talk
the
about.
Leafs implosion. We got to talk about your Habs resurgence. We got to talk a little bit about Celebrini, some trade talk, um, and just we'll go around the league a little bit because still a few things happening around the league. Where do you want to
Yep.
start? Do you want to start with your resurgence Habs?
All right. Let's not make too big a deal of it. Yes, the
Because
Canadians are
you
playing
can't
well.
have any piece of the couch any longer.
No, I
One
don't
year,
have. Look, you can't beat Vegas and Colorado and then decide
two
um
big wins.
and then say you're on the couch. Just a few things I want to comment on.
Just a few.
Just a
Just a
few.
few.
Number one, they wanted, they had the Colorado Avalanche wearing the blue Nordiques jerseys, which I loved.
I love those
Right.
jerseys.
But this color on color BS, I can't stand. If you wanted to bring
Are
back
you really
and
just
have
picking
the,
on color on color? You want to not talk how good your team is playing,
we'll
and you
get
want to talk
there.
about
We'll
color
get there.
on
We'll
color.
get there. We'll get there. I like the whole idea was to sort of bring back memories of, the
Quebec
you know
rivalry.
the Quebec rivalry and the massacre and all of that stuff. And I have to say, if one of the teams isn't wearing a white jersey, like you're not getting that. It's not bringing back the same memories, right? Like it
But
has to
those
look
Nordique
like.
jerseys are pretty tame in terms of light, in terms of the blue. It's baby blue at best.
Yeah, I'm telling you, they should have had one of the teams wearing their white jerseys, and
I don't
because they were
disagree.
in Montreal back in the '80s, the home teams were wearing white. I think the Canadians should have been wearing their ex home whites, and the Nordiques should have been wearing
Or the
the
Nordiques
Avalanche
wearing
should have been wearing those blue.
or the Nordiques wearing the white, the Avalanche wearing the white
Right.
Nordique jerseys,
Yeah,
which
I
would have been
the
just
color on
as.
color, I'm not a fan of.
I get it.
It took me out of my nostalgia.
Okay, we'll move on to your backup.
Okay, so
The goaltender that you called a perennial backup has gone
yes,
7-0-1 in his last 8 starts.
yeah, and look, he's still got a save percentage, comfortably under 900. The Canadians are scoring a lot of goals behind him. He has made some fantastic and very timely saves. He did that. Um, he did that against, particularly against Colorado. I was super impressed with some of the big time stops that he made. His rebound control was great. He was pushing everything into the corners as much as he could. I thought, and all of the sports writers were all over this. The move that Marty St. Louis made to create a defensive pairing and an offensive defensive pairing to neutralize the top lines. So they put Matheson and Dobson together, they put Matheson and Gooley together, to be the defensive shutdown line. And they did a fantastic job on Natchez and McKinnon. A really, really great job. They light on their feet. They kept pace with both of them and then used their bodies when they were required to. And then, Dobson and Hudson together are dangerous every time they're on the ice. It doesn't
Still don't
matter.
understand why Hudson's not on Team USA.
Yeah, well, you could say the same thing about Cole Caulfield, who now has 30 goals on the season,
Right.
and just last night broke a 6-game goal scoring streak. But
We're talking about the Habs here, but the top two US born goal scorers in the league right now, neither of them are on Team USA.
yeah, Robertson and Caulfield.
Yeah.
It makes zero sense to
And
me.
to your point
but
about the Habs scoring goals right now, they are first in the Eastern Division in goals for.
yeah,
Do you know who's second?
Toronto.
No.
No,
Boston. The
Boston.
team that we said at the
Couldn't
beginning of the
score
season, if you
goals.
go back to first, where are they going to get their goals from? They're second in goals for in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah,
So
and they're all coming from Pasternak and Morgan Geekie. It's crazy.
it's insane.
Um,
Sorry, to go
I,
back to your Habs. So I got
so
you on a
that
tangent.
decision to sort of to have this sort of super defensive pairing in order to shut down superstar lines worked out great 2 nights in a row. Their forecheck, but I think what really sort of turned the tide for them in the last couple of games, other than better the goaltending than they were getting from Montembeault, was the forecheck. Both games, the forecheck for 3 periods was relentless. Now, they didn't dominate the game for 60 minutes in both games, but it was very, very clear that the Canadian speed was making things really difficult for both of those teams to get out of their own zone with comfortable possession and an organized breakout for large portions of both games. If you can hold a team to 15 minutes of organized possession time in a game, you're going to win most of the time, even against teams like Vegas and Colorado. So, great strategic moves by St. Louis. Great inspirational speech making, I'm guessing, because he's got that team turned around real quick and playing 2 very, very solid games in a row. So, look, we'll see what happens against Buffalo. Yeah, looking good right now. I'm
Dare I
definitely not
say
on the
that your
couch.
prediction that you made last week
That they might not be in
that
a
they
playoff
no, you didn't
position.
say might not.
I
You
said they
said
probably won't be
will
in
not be in a playoff spot
at
come
the
the
break.
Olympics. They are now 8 points up on Florida and Washington and New Jersey. So they are
Yeah,
comfortably in a playoff spot.
that's
So
looking like a
they're
bad
not,
prediction.
they're bad prediction. You had a little bit of, you went off the rails a little bit, your expectations have changed from the beginning of the season,
They
which we
have.
talked about, which is okay. You got lofty expectations. You know what? It's probably likely that I'm going to be rooting for your Habs come the playoffs because I'm not going to have anybody else to root for.
It's going to be painful for
It's
you.
going to be this will be the first time in a long time since probably I paid you in a bet between Montreal and Boston in the playoffs that the Leafs have not been in the playoffs and the Habs have been.
It's true. It's true. You know what I
In
should
quite
do?
a few years.
I should take a picture of that $100
You
bill
should post that
and the
on our
letter and
Instagram page.
post it on the Instagram page.
You definitely should. That still pains me every time I see that photo that
You
you've
want
got
that? You
my
want that
money.
C note back?
Oh, I
You
do. I
want that
want it
C note
back.
back?
It's
Um,
ugly.
but yeah, look, clearly that's probably the 67th prediction I've made this season that was wrong. Not really showing a great track record right now, but look, it's the problem is everybody else is still winning. Like every night, Tampa wins, Detroit wins, Buffalo wins, Boston wins every single night. Like we're not making up any ground when we win 2
No,
big games in
but
a row
we
like
talked
that.
about that in that we're in this sort of cycle of games at this point where the teams are playing teams that are not necessarily in the race, which means you actually need to win those games more importantly because you need to keep pace with everybody else because the Eastern Conference top teams are hot right now.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
So you
So
need to keep
let's
winning.
enough about Montreal. We don't want to spend all
No,
the entire
well,
show
I
on
don't want to talk
Montreal and
about the
Toronto
Leafs, so
tonight.
let's talk about something else.
Well, let's talk about. Look, the Leafs are sucking
Suck?
right now. They're not going to make the playoffs. It doesn't look like. So let's talk about Tankathon, right? Because if they're
Well,
bad enough,
yeah.
They keep their draft pick,
Yeah, they
right?
have to.
So
It's it's part of the obviously the raffle or whatever you want to call it,
the
the
lottery.
lottery. Thank you. I call it a raffle. It's stupid, but the lottery that the top their pick this year is top five protected. So
Top 5 protect.
they're
Okay,
not
so
in the
they've got to
top five
be
right now. So they got to be in the top five, or they got to be in a position where their lottery pick could drop into the top five in order to keep that prediction. So right now they're not there, but if they keep playing the way they have this week, they just might get there.
all right.
I don't.
Tankathon. Sell
Yeah, I
people
don't
off.
want
Keep
to.
your pick.
Yeah,
What
I
are
don't
they?
want to
Who?
break down either game because they played. Again, other
Let's
than the
just talk
Marner
about who has
game.
to go. Let's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
talk about
yeah.
who
Just
has to go.
they just didn't show up against Buffalo. Two own goals. One of them off of Riley is just terrible. And then
Mm-hmm.
they didn't play very well in Kraken, and then the rest is whatever. So they're not they're now 10 points out. Here's the situation now. They're in this nowhere region of Toronto being a perennial playoff team for the last 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
a franchise that hasn't won since 1967.
Mm-hmm.
And do they go into a rebuild, a retooling, or just full sell on job? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the mode of at this point, and maybe it's just because of what's going on, just sell the farm. Let's rebuild. We have nothing. The cupboards are bare, right? We've given up the first round draft choice for the next couple of years, unless they're top five.
You're in the exact same
We
position
don't
as
have any
Boston,
prospects.
and
Yeah,
they
so
retooled. Why can't you do it?
we could.
They sold off two or three like
Yes. So
they sold off two or three like middling parts.
right. So who goes? But
OEL
before
OEL's got to go. Morgan Riley's
he,
got to go.
OEL's been one of our best defensemen. He's got term.
So he has value.
He does have value.
The,
I think one of the three goaltenders goes. And here's the interesting part, and we were talking about this before we got on air.
mm-hmm.
Stolhartz, who's been injured, and I've been singing the praises of all three of our goaltenders. I was a
Yep.
little disappointed this week when we found out that Stolhartz, after this lengthy injury,
Mm-hmm.
came back, was ready to go, went to a conditioning stint in the minors, and then refused to play a game for the Marlies because the original goal for him was to go down to the Marlies, practice while the team was on the road, get a game in, and then come back up and play with the Leafs. Well, he did that. He went down to the farm, practiced with the teams, and then refused to play for the Marlies. So Leafs had to bring him back up, and then he gets shelled against Vegas.
Okay.
And it's not his fault. The team played pathetically in front of him, but still, to me, that's not great teammanship. That's not good being part of the team and players. And you after the length that he hadn't played since the middle of November,
Right.
you've got to go back and play a game before you were going to play the Vegas Knights. And to me, that's selfish. And it's a little bit of what's going around the team right now. There's a lot of talk about selfishness, about the players. You've got
Got Nylander flipping the bird.
And it's not that that's so offensive. It's just in the sense of where this team is right now. There's an overall sense that there's a lack of leadership and professionalism around the team right now, and that just showcased it. And it's not flipping the bird at the camera because he was pissed that the cameras were on him or he wasn't playing like he said it was. It's really the fans take offense to that because we feel like as fans we're saying you're flipping off, going, I'm just joking around. It doesn't matter to me. We're losing. I'm not taking all this seriously.
I don't care anymore.
Just
Yeah.
unprofessional. And then news comes out this past week that whole week build up to Marner coming into town, the Leafs going through a rough patch that week previously, that Matthews refused to be the face to go out and speak to the media. And Tavares had to go and do it. So to me, again, a lack of leadership for this team is showing up from the top to the bottom. And I know Keith Pelly really well, and if he's listening to this, I doubt he is, or someone finds out about it, where the heck is Keith? Where is the leadership of MLSE speaking about this and talking about this and getting out in front of it? Because they're nowhere to be seen. Nowhere. Trey Levin hasn't really spoken much.
These are deep organizational issues, you're saying.
Issues, right? So where do we go from here? And the only thing is, as you just said, is to start selling pieces and start rebuilding the cabinet. But they need to come out and say it. They just can't go into this place of ambiguity.
Got to send a letter like the Rangers. Maybe they should
yeah.
fire Treliving and hire Chris Drury.
Oh, hire me and you. But no, so you're right. Start selling parts. If it's OEL, it's time for Riley to go. He still has a little value somewhere in the league, experience and a power play forward defenseman. He's not a defensive defenseman. He's terrible in his own end. So get some value for him now. Maybe one of the young kids needs to go. Maybe a McCann needs to go. Bobby McMahon, sorry, needs to go. Maybe someone like that to get some true
Isn't
value.
McMahon like 29?
Yeah, but he's still young. I think he's like late 20s. Yeah, mid 20s, late 20s, something like that. He did get a late start, but he might draw a little bit.
He looks like he's 40.
Yeah, but because of his size, his speed, his ability to score, his impact, he could probably draw a little bit of a return.
He's 6'2", 217.
Yeah.
He's 29 years old.
29. So, but he could probably still draw a decent return, right? But
Yep.
He goes, Carlo goes, because Carlo now is turning into the worst trade ever. You've got
you're selling low on him though.
Yeah, Mitten, 15 goals this year. We could have been used him. He's a plus 12 or 15 or something like that, which is crazy.
And he's fast.
Yeah, and Carlo's had a bad year. He's had some injuries. I don't blame Carlo at all, but we gave up a first round pick and a first round picked player in return. So it's
Well, I
looking like a
think the
really
bigger
bad trade.
problem, I think the bigger problem with Brandon Carlo is that uh, it's kind of emblematic with the sort of roster building issues that Toronto might have. And what I mean by that is they built this big, heavy team under the old sort of playoff philosophy. You got to wear teams down in the playoffs. You got to be, but their D is not terribly mobile,
No, and
and you need mobile defensemen in this new NHL to
well,
stop players.
they built a team under Trey Levin that is in the eyes of Berube. And
Yeah.
I have been a supporter of Berube's from the beginning, the last couple of years. Really happy when he came in. I thought it was a great move. I haven't loved some of the roster moves they've made in the last couple years. So, maybe the full house sweep needs to go. Trey Levy needs to go. Berube needs to go, and they need to bring in somebody younger, more progressive,
You mean like
offensive.
so you mean like
Um,
Kyle Dubas?
no, because Kyle Dubas was an idiot too. Kyle Dubas got us into this problem with the no trade clause with the four big guys. So I'm not a big Kyle Dubas fan. Yes, Penguins seem to be doing well because Crosby has found the fountain of youth and is playing great, and they seem to be doing well. And
Well, I mean,
Skinner seems to be found his game and
it's
gets better.
unbelievable. It's like these people, like it's like retreat players that find their game when they start playing with Malkin and Crosby, and and then they'll like do a call up from some guy you never heard of that wasn't even a first run draft pick. Just like they got like somebody like Chicklets McGillicuddy or something
Right,
like that, and immediately scores 6 goals in his first 4 games
right.
or something like that.
But it's
They're
also style of play, and I think that's the difference is that
yeah.
Pittsburgh is around Crosby and Malkin and some of the older guys. They've got some of these youth guys coming in and actually playing the right roles and filling gaps and whatnot. The Leafs have
Oh, and they
none of
play a
that.
detailed game.
Right. And the Leafs are playing a completely undisciplined, can't get out of their own end, not a puck possession
They're
game,
averaging
really.
five. They're averaging 5 goals against the game
Yeah,
for the
it's
last 18 games or
crazy.
something like that.
So it's just insane. So
Yeah.
it's time. It was actually been a lot of chatter amongst the experts this week that people saying, obviously, the Leafs were thinking before these last couple games were, okay, who do we acquired in order to try and make that push? We were only 6 points out. We're now 10 points
No,
out.
no, no. That time has
Now let's
passed.
get, so let's be passive. Let's not make the knee-jerk reaction now before the Olympics. Let's maybe not even make the knee-jerk reaction at the official trade deadline. Maybe it's an off season between the Stanley Cup playoffs and the draft, and at the draft and over the summer we start trading pieces and start bringing in other things. Maybe there's a couple trades that happen at the deadline or before the draft that gives
Hmm.
us some draft capital, but this draft isn't particularly strong beyond the top 4 or 5. So unless we keep a top 5 pick, maybe you need to start thinking the next year, right? You're thinking long term here and
Yeah.
rebuilding this team because maybe one of the three goaltenders has got to go, right? We've got
Yep.
three really. Maybe that's the value in the team is one of the three goaltenders, maybe one or two, maybe three of the defensemen, and
Scott Lawton
maybe
might have value.
yeah, Scott Lawton might be a value, but he's very valuable from a third line center. To keep him, he's got term left, I think, or no, they've got to re-sign him after this year. So maybe, but maybe Bobby McMahon or someone like that's got to go. You know how I feel about Robertson. He's got to be discharged for a bag of pucks. But you got to make some bold moves here and start
Yep.
fresh.
Okay. So that's enough about the Leafs and the
Yeah.
Habs. Let's move on around the league. The big news this week, something I don't recall having seen before. Uh, Macklin Celebrini, who's lit the league on fire in 1,000 different ways, found one more way to get people talking about him, which was to tell the refs that the high sticking call that they had their arms up for on a high sticking call on him. He was never touched, and they shouldn't call the penalty. Now that the refs are never going to admit that they're wrong, so they
No,
called the
not in the
penalty
moment, they're
anyway.
not.
They called the penalty anyway. You're not putting the arm down, but
No.
um, what a display of sportsmanship and honesty from the young man. On
Which,
top
which,
of everything else he's displayed, this
which,
kid's turning himself into a hero.
from a sportsmanship thing, I applaud because yes, the stick from Ekholm sort of came up and it looked like it was going to hit him, so he snapped his head back a little bit, try and get out of the way. So it looked like from a referee's from the far side angle that he got
It looked like
clipped.
he got clipped. Yep, but he
So
wasn't.
he did wasn't so as soon as the ref blew the whistle, he was waving his hand, going, "He never touched me. He never touched me." But you're right, the refs are never going to admit they made a mistake in that moment. Um, but so from a sportsman's perspective, I applaud Celebrini for doing that. From a competition perspective, take every advantage you can
Yeah.
because they're up in this game because for those who don't know, is that they were up 3-0 at some point. I can't remember where that penalty fell in that
Mm-hmm.
scenario of 3 up. But going into the third period, they're up 3 goals. Oilers scored within the first 2 minutes of the third period, and then scored 2 goals in the last 5 minutes, the tying goal in the last minute, and then scored in overtime to win in overtime.
Okay.
That power play, they ended up scoring on it, but if he got it overturned, and then didn't score on it or didn't have the opportunity to score, that was a game changer. And who knows? Yes, he probably tried on the power play, but
Of
maybe
course he
he's
did.
feeling guilty. I don't know. But you
No,
take every advantage you can get. And
I
then
I
after the
I,
game,
I
you go,
agree
I
with
never
that.
got hit. Bad call, not my fault. I got to
Look,
play
I
the
agree
game.
with you. I agree with you in a large respect, but I do have to take a step back and think, it's possible the kid's playing the long game, right? Like
I
you
agree.
get in good with the refs. First of all, it in one respect, if the refs see that your head snapped back and they called a penalty and it shows after the game, they see the replay that you were never touched and the stick missed you by a foot, they're going to hold that against you.
I agree
On the
with you
flip
100%.
on the flip side of that, if if the kid comes up to you and says that didn't happen, um, the refs start to respect you. Maybe you get a call that you
Mm,
might not have otherwise gotten, and maybe that happens in a playoff game.
true.
So maybe the kid's smarter than all of us, on top of being much more talented,
Absolutely.
and he's just playing the long game. Look, I could watch this kid all day long.
Oh, this is gonna be so much fun. The Olympics. Did you hear his comments actually before the game when they were
Mm-mm.
asking about playing this
With
week, playing
Crosby.
against McDavid,
Oh.
next week playing with him, and his comment was, "Well, I hope tonight he does nothing, and in a week from now he does everything." That was his exact comment, and I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, I
So
think I think this
this
kid could
kid's
be the face of
polished.
the. He's going
He's
to be the face of the league. I mean, I'd love Connor McDavid. He's probably the best player that has ever lived. But he doesn't have the
yes.
same shine that this kid has. Like he's
Well,
he's
Connor
he's
McDavid is 10 years into the league. As we talked about, I know it was last week or the week before, he's getting a little angry because he hasn't
he's
won yet.
he has a
And he's
scowl.
getting
He has a scowl on his face almost all the time these days. I've
he's
never seen him joking on the bench.
because
Like,
everybody expects him to win. He
yeah,
hasn't, unfortunately, in the last 2 years going to the final, and he's getting pissed. And I don't blame him for the same stupid questions. They had the terrible goaltending for the last 2 or 3 years. They haven't fixed that issue really. Yes, they
no,
tried with
but
Jari, but I'm
yeah,
getting tired. He's getting tired of it. I get it. He's competitive. He wants to win. And there's been a lot of chatter is if they don't win the next couple of years, he's leaving town.
yeah, for sure. And by the way, he shouldn't be scowling like he is on the bench all the time because nobody forced him to sign that 2-year deal that
No,
he just
I
signed.
get that. I get that. But
So
hey, I from being a Canadian, I love that he's still there.
yeah, yeah.
And if from an East-West perspective, I'll root for your Habs this playoffs because I'm gonna root for you because you rooted for me in the other years. But I'll be rooting for the Oilers on the other side,
All
even though I
right.
think it's a far-fetched thing that they're gonna do this. But the Colorado Avalanche have come down to earth a little bit in the last 10 games. They're 4-4-2. They're getting a little complacent. I don't know, but gliding a little bit, trying not to win the President's Cup. I don't know, but they're hit a bit
Yeah,
of a snag, a little bit of a
they know the
low
curse.
spot. They know the
They're
curse. They
avoiding the
know the curse
curse.
is there. Edmonton's on a bit of a rise. But let's just, again, we did this last week. I got to say it again. You got to give kudos where kudos are due. Buffalo Sabres are just
I know.
incredible right now. 5 wins in a row, 7-2-1, and they just can't lose.
I know they're giving 2017 St. Louis Blues vibes in a big way.
Scary. Dead last to first place. They're not in
Yeah.
first place now, but they're only 5 points back from Tampa Bay, but Tampa Bay's playing really well. I
Tage
don't know.
Tage Thompson looks unstoppable at this point. And
And
honestly, like the guys what does he have? A 100-mile-an-hour slap wrist shot?
He's such a big dude. Such a big
Like
dude.
he can get a lot of velocity behind that shot, and he's playing a smart game, smarter
Yeah.
than he's ever played before.
Well,
So
and the Sabres are caught in a bit of a situation over the next couple months leading up to trade deadline. Look at they're obviously solidly now in a playoff spot. I can't see them not making the
they're not
playoffs.
trading Alex Todd.
That's the point is what do you do
They're
with him?
not
He
trading
wants a
him.
stupid amount of money.
So it's an own rental.
Right.
Worst case
So
scenario, it's an
so he's
own
going to
rental.
walk at the end of the season. That's scary too. When they can get a boatload for him right now because he's scoring in bunches.
Yeah.
So what do? You keep him?
Yeah, I keep him. He's an own rental, and then you convince him to stay.
But do
You
they
may
really going to
you,
win the Stanley Cup?
no, but if you get into the playoffs for the first time since the Eisenhower administration, and and maybe win a round or two, even if you don't, like that creates a lot of good vibes for the next
I agree.
season.
I agree.
And if they can throw enough money at him, and they
Yep.
probably can, they're with the cap going up,
Yep.
they should have space.
It'll be a great story with them in the playoffs. Detroit finally getting in there. Of course, it's at the cost of my Leafs, but it is what it is.
All right, what else is going on in the league?
Well,
What,
we can talk a little bit about some of the other trade capital going on. There's trade about around Kane. Where's Kane going to end up? Vancouver is trying to sell him
what is he,
in a
48
bunch
years
of
old?
pieces. I can't believe the rumors of where people are talking about him going. I'm not sure why the Avalanche and Dallas, both teams are top of the rumor mill for him. Why either of these two teams want a player that seemingly wears out his welcome really quickly wherever he goes and is a disruption.
Yeah, but at the same time, Vander Kane has that playoff bite. And Colorado doesn't have a ton of that. Frankly, if I were Colorado, I'd be calling Calgary and say, well, what do you want for Nazem Kadri? We want him back. We want a cup with him. We want to win another one with him. What's it
Yeah,
going to
and
take?
I think there's some definite noise around there. I think the issue is salary cap, which I also think is the issue around Kane, right? There's salary restraints
Mm-hmm.
around that. And I think the same thing in Dallas. Dallas, whatever move they make, they need to relieve themselves of some cap space which is all the talk around Robertson going somewhere else, but he is the top scorer amongst US born
Yeah,
players.
yeah.
Like, how do you get rid of this guy?
And by the
Because
way,
they
what's Jersey got in there? I mean, Jersey cleared cap space with the Andre Palat trade.
which
So what do they
shocked
get?
everybody.
I mean, is that just
Maybe,
because they want to have space, or do they have something specific in mind? And I'm like,
maybe.
oh, that's interesting.
That could be an interesting place too. Like, but Kane fit into New Jersey?
So, yeah.
Robertson, maybe? Like, because there's no way Robertson is going to be traded within the West. He's going to the
Robertson's
East.
not getting traded this. Dallas is on a championship run. You're not trading a 30-goal guy at this point.
If they can get Panarin out of New York, do they do that? Because that's the other big piece to go. Panarin's going to get traded. He's being held out for
Yeah,
the
he's being
last
held
three
out.
games going into the Olympic break because they're trying to keep him healthy. If they could keep him out of the Olympics, I'm sure they would keep him out of the Olympics. They can't.
Right.
So he's going somewhere between now and the official trade line, maybe even before next Friday. Where does he go? There's some talk about
Mm,
you know,
could be
I
New
don't think,
Jersey. I think
I
he
don't,
wants to stay on the East Coast,
yeah,
doesn't
and
he?
I don't think that New York cares because they're so far out of it. They don't care
Mm-hmm.
if they sell him to a division rivalry because it's not going to matter to them.
Yeah. You know who has the assets to make a Panarin deal that could be really interesting?
Who?
Washington.
But but why? Do you really think Washington has really?
They've got a lot of draft picks. They got a lot of prospects in their cupboard.
But they're 8 points out of a playoff spot. How much lifespan does Panarin have?
He's 34.
Exactly.
He's 34 and he's still like one of the top zone entry guys in the league.
Well, one of the problems Washington has is age.
Yeah, they're not
So
getting
I'm
younger.
not taking a 34-year-old guy making $8 or $9 million a year that wants more because
Mm.
Panarin wants a deal and he wants 10 plus. I'm not sure Washington's the right move. I think he ends up in somewhere like New York or Dallas or
Well, he's in New York. You mean Jersey? He's
Jersey.
not going to be playing for the
Dor-
Islanders. I don't think.
I meant
Yeah.
Jersey. Or I can see him going to Colorado or Dallas, and I think that could be the flip for Robertson. Yes, age not good, but you're getting goal scoring for goal scoring.
Yeah. By the way, how crazy is it that the Rangers traded Carson Soucy to the New York Islanders? They're Long Island rivals. So you're 100% right that they don't care where they're trading.
They don't care right now. They just want return on their assets and start to build it for the future. They've given up on this year. They've sent out the letter. Again, I still question why they're letting Drury run this ship and not.
Well, it sounds to me like they're going to keep him, right? Like, because if they were planning on getting rid of him in the offseason, you wouldn't be letting him do the fire sale now. You'd have somebody new in there who's controlling it. So, like, it's pretty impressive to me. So,
do you think Panarin goes before next Friday, or do you think he waits till after the Olympics?
I think they're going to try. I think they're going to try, but if the right offer doesn't come in, they're not going to rush. They're not going to panic.
Right. They've taken him out of the lineup for a reason. There needs to be a lot of noise around what's going on and keeping.
Look, they're in the basement anyway, right? You're trying to at this point you've got your eyes on Gavin McKenna or Ivar Sternberg. So Stenberg, whatever.
Now, before we go, the other news around the league is, and again, we're going to do another show right before the Olympics, and we'll have some updates with that. We'll talk about the groupings. We'll talk about the teams, because we'll hopefully know by then what players have.
A lot of players are getting healthier.
Yeah, a lot of players healthy, so we'll understand some of the substitutions, whether they happen or not. We've talked a lot about, last week we talked a lot about team injuries and who could replace or whatnot. The other thing we've been hearing lately is that the arena has gotten a little closer to being done.
Yep.
I don't know if the washrooms work. I don't know if they can pour beer out of the stands or whatnot, but the ice seems to be ready. The players' change rooms need to be ready. It's still a question mark whether this ice is going to be able to withstand 5 NHL-style games in a day, because that's what it needs to take for a week and a half. And that will be an interesting thing to just keep our eye on.
I'm going to start calling it BYOB Arena.
BYOB. Let's both go to Italy.
Yeah, good idea.
And take our own beer, take our Canadian beer, our Labatt or Canadian, and although neither of them are owned by a Canadian company anymore, but we'll drink our Canadian beer.
Sounds good to me.
Excellent. And we're going to enjoy a couple weeks off, so we'll apologize that we're going to be off next week, but we'll be back right before the Olympics, just in time to give you some updates and enjoy your trip.
Thank you. But when I get back, it's okay if you're on the couch. I just don't want you on the window ledge.
Well, you better get a rope and pull me back now, because I'm there.
Jeez. Okay. Take care, Phil. Have a great week.
We'll see you in a couple weeks on the Aiming 5-Hole Podcast. See you later, Ryan. Have a safe trip.
Thank you, sir. Take care.